Am I too old to go to university? No, not at all. I thought the exact same thing for a long, long time. I always stuck by a saying, who I don't actually know who it was from, but never let schooling get in the way of your education. And I'm 29 now, and started university when I was 28. And I always got so worried, but age was the barrier, you know? It was always around like, oh, I've missed my time. Everybody from my high school's already gone and got their degrees, and, I have to go do other stuff. And I did. I worked in hospitality for 13, 14 years. I worked my way up from a kitchen porter to management level. You know what? I was in a good paid job. I mean, it was a base salary of £32,000 a year. And I realised I need something else. I don't want to be in hospitality for the rest of my life. I want to be, I don't know, doing something, striving for better in a weird way. I think that people who work hospitality and keep up the professionalism in restaurants and customer services, yeah, they're held incredibly fucking high. That is a hard job. People are awful day to day, long hours. I just wanted to do more. I felt like I felt incomplete in a way. Like, although I got to where I had done in my career with hospitality, I wanted to go study animal care and management. I wanted to go study zoology or animal welfare science. So I quit my job and I joined. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it just wasn't for me. I knew that I could be doing something better with my time and learning something. I was so scared of education. I was so scared of being judged by people who were younger than me or not fitting in. And a lot of it came around anxiety and what would people think about me. And then I realized after a while, and I thought about it for a long time, and I guess what I realized is that you can learn anything at any age. You can pick up hobbies at any age. You don't have to wait around. You don't have to think you've missed the train. You haven't missed any train. That's what I've been telling myself for a long time. And I joined last year. And it was absolutely fucking fantastic. I met people. I loved the course. I was challenging myself in ways which I hadn't been challenging myself prior. And I surprised myself a lot. Like a lot. It was odd. It was very, very odd. I had this belief that missing the timeline meant that I was failing. Even though I had the success in the career, it didn't feel official in a weird way. It felt like I'd left this window open, I think is a good way of putting it, and never closed it. It was something that I always want to, but I always thought, oh, I'm not smart enough. I won't be able to do these things. I've completely missed the time, and maybe I've done so much and been out of education for so long that I'm not smart enough to do these things. Yeah, it just never felt official. People in a workplace didn't seem the same. It was only when I realised that there were so many misconceptions around the subject that I didn't fail. I speak to people who are here now in the university, and they're a bit younger than me, and they all say very similar things like, oh, I wanted to keep staying in school so I can avoid the adult life. And I found that really interesting because it made me feel like, I couldn't relate to them on that because I didn't know what the adult life was. I had experienced life. I had earned these things, which were all on my own thing, I felt on my own, very much on my own. Here I feel supported. There's a lot more outlets I can go to if something feels emotional, or the materials that are thrown at me feel like I've got somebody I could talk to constantly. I got that in the career, but I didn't get it as much. Not as severely protected as students usually are nowadays. There's an outlet for everything. Any kind of questions, tutors, friends, clubs. There's a huge amount of misconceptions. And one of the things which I keep finding is emotional development, the choices that I make and how I can recognize patterns learnt from adult life. I've learnt these things and learned how to regulate that sort of stuff over the years. And coming in to study after learning those things are actually very, very helpful, because rather than being roped into these social situations which I may or may not want to be in, I didn't have to, because I knew that it wouldn't pan out well. I wouldn't have to worry about all this sort of stuff because I've seen it play out a few times before in a different setting. I'd learned those things as a mature student, seen the things which people who are just joining university at 18 years old haven't. I've experienced those things, and you can use that to your advantages massively. You've spent years working your job where you have to be punctual, so you have to be punctual with lectures, you have to be punctual with the work that you do, and you have to put your all into it. You know, some people go with it because it's just a flow. They flow with this river from high school to college to uni, and that's just how it works. But you know, I mean, you're still choosing to be there, but for me, it felt like I'd completely uprooted and chose to be there rather than being in the flow of things, if that makes any sense. A degree you can treat as a business as well, and that is one big thing as well. You treat your degree as important as it is, as if it's your work. I mean, if you have a maintenance loan, you're basically getting paid for it. You should definitely treat it with the utmost respect, because otherwise it will jump on top of you and ruin you. I love the structure that comes with this, and that's very similar to work, although in university and learning it's a lot less chaotic. There is a structure which is followed, and a lot of people do not cut corners because you're unable to cut corners. There was a massive misconception for myself, which is basically my fear versus my reality. And I wanted to collapse this illusion, which I did in the end. And when I got here, I realized that there was many mixed ages. There was people as young as 18, and there were people as old as 72. I mean, I have met people who are double my age and they're still loving it, and they're here, and they wouldn't change it for the world, because it's an incredibly lucky situation to be in when you compare yourself to people who have nothing. So the fear of being too old dissipated quite quickly when I realized that there's actually a lot of people who are also in the same position as me, you know, and there was no judgment. Well, there wasn't none. There was some judgment. Some people would state, they would be like, why are you in uni? Are you having a midlife crisis? Like, what the shut up. What do you mean? There's no need for the question, and I'm not going to answer it. No, I'm not. So, and you shouldn't feel like it either. Like, if you want to join, go join. Don't worry about what people say. Someone might say it, but at least you get to tell them to jog on when they do. And you can put your foot down and say, you clearly haven't learned. Then you will. That's it. You don't need to see anything else to it. When I actually had contact with this fear, it dissipated. It was overwhelmingly surprising in a positive manner. Being older actually turned out to be helping rather than hurting. I had a huge amount of clarity in the direction I wanted my life to go. I was old enough to know the things that I didn't want in life, rather than having to experience in them and then realize I didn't want them. I'd already been through that. So I actually knew the direction I wanted to go. When I came into university, I wanted to be a habitat specialist, and I'd known that for a long time, but I'd thought about it for a long time as well, and it hadn't changed. So that's definitely one thing of life paying off. You know I really wanted it. This wasn't just the next step in my life, which I thought was correct because of the societal push from education that I went into, especially in the UK, from primary to high school to college to uni. I'd broken it up, and I'd still realized I wanted to be back here and do that with my life. And I think that's fucking important, you know? I was able to use studying with intent. I was using uni as a tool rather than a way of not escaping, you know, escaping the adult life, as I mentioned earlier. I didn't have any draft on my identity. I felt like I'd already built that up, and I now knew what I wanted to do and how to make these things happen. Just to close the loop completely, age was not the barrier here, not in any way, shape or form. So in the end, I guess what I realized is that timing wasn't wrong. Like, I wasn't too late to the game. the avoidance of not starting university, or really anything in life, it carried a hell of a lot more weight than the actual entry, if that made sense. So what I'm trying to say is the fear controlled and had more weight in my life and more of a pullback than actually starting it did. And this could be a big motivational video where you turn around and just like, yeah, eradicate fear and everything will be fine. This isn't Stranger Things. We don't need to do that shit over here. You know, I'm just talking real. All I'm saying is, if you want to start university, then go do it. Because there is no time better to do it than the now. It took me a lot to get to where I am. And I know it's probably taking you a lot to get where you need to be, which is exactly why you're here. So no, it's not too late and you're not too old. I really hope this helped you a little bit, but the message that I'm trying to get across should be important enough. And I hope it helps you make an informed decision that sometimes doing the things that you're terrified of is possibly the best outcome that you can have. So yeah, happy studying and have a great day.